Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? Geoff Mosher alongside Adam Caplan. We've got a really good Inside the Birds lined up for you. A lot to talk about, Adam, since our last podcast came out. The Eagles have had kind of a variety of practices. They had a Veterans Day off type of practice. They had an actual day off for the whole team. They had a normal practice. They had a practice at the vet. I'm not the vet, at the link. That would be very old if it was a practice at the vet. But no, they had a practice at the link. So a whole lot to go through, a lot to discuss. And, of course, I've been added to the injury list, as you know, the first time in my life. First time I made it 45 years and 3 days before suffering an injury that would require stitches. I am stitched up on the top of my foot after grazing. We have a broken bicycle in our garage where the pedal got snapped off, so it's kind of got this rusty end. And somehow, some way, I was not paying attention, and I grazed my foot alongside that a little. I know, right? You're wincing, I can see. And it took out a chunk of skin. And it was the first time in my life, Adam, where I looked at the cut, and I'm like, wow, it's – the skin is separate. I can kind of see the meat in there.
Oh, do you have to? How many stitches do you
How's your weekend been, brother?
Yeah. Oh, boy, I was a good weekend. It's, I was able to put behind a crazy travel schedule. So I'm glad we're at Monday morning now and I could look towards the next week and travel around the country. But how many stitches do you get?
I got 5 stitches, so it wasn't that bad. It was just like a terribly inopportune time for it to happen. We were about to head down the shore, and now I couldn't go in the ocean. I can't go in the ocean when you got your foot stitched up for several days. So, nonetheless, we persevere. We battle through. I wanted to kind of get into with you your trip right before we get into Eagle stuff, because you were out on the West Coast, and we promised our listeners you would give us some feedback about what you saw and your feel, because you saw the Cowboys and the Chargers and anybody else?
Yeah. Actually, we're going to do a show later this week. We'll do our ITB TV where I'll just go over my tour because we don't have an hour to do
right.
this.
No, I just wanted you to get like 1 or 2 points, something.
Yeah. So Cowboys. Yeah. All right. So I'm glad you brought this up. And I know Eagle fans don't want to hear this about Deshaun Jackson. So in Saturday's practice, this was Ox, you know what's coming. It's exactly. I knew they would use him in a very specific way. He doesn't practice very much. You kind of put him on ice and try to get him to the regular season. Mm-hmm. But they got physical with him. And man, the Cowboys, they're way deeper at corner and safety than they have been in the past. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be good. They're very young at corner, which is not a bad thing. And they're talented, but they have to play consistent football. But what happened was with Matthew Stafford as quarterback, you're going to throw the ball downfield. You're not going to be restricted with a playbook. He hit Jackson on a post route. He does what he always does. He beats double coverage, 50 yards downfield. And then the funny thing is, because it was in Oxnard, and this is where the Cowboys have part of the training camp, other than being in Dallas, most of the media was with the Cowboy offense versus the Ram defense. I was the opposite because I want to see Stafford, and it happened right in front of me. And when you go to practice, Geoff, when it's a bomb, you see the trajectory of the ball, and you go, "Oh boy, this will be interesting to see it come down."
Right.
But before the ball got there, I'm like, "Whoa, Deshaun's being covered. Is it going to get there?" And it was beautiful, man. Stafford the thing about Stafford is the ball doesn't move. He throws line drives, like some quarterbacks have a tail on it or a wobble. There's nothing. He throws a stiff ball and it's very catchable. And Jackson and Deshaun was laughing at these guys, doing he was walking back sideways to look at those guys like, "Hey man, I got you."
Still got it.
He does.
Man,
he clearly does.
He's home now. He's from LA, right. So he's back home. Deshaun's like one of those guys where you feel like he's going to be catching deep bombs until he's like 45, because he just doesn't lose a step. He's always hurt. And that'll be the big thing for the Rams. But, I mean, it's not like the Rams don't also have, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. So, yeah, he adds something different with his vertical element that those two guys really don't. But they can win games without him. But with him healthy and on the field, oh, man, they could be super, super good on offense.
I believe that they've got the deepest pass target group in the NFL. They're legit 7 deep.
Yeah.
We'll talk later this week about the Rams and what I saw from them. But for the Cowboys, because it's an Eagles division,
right.
Cooper didn't work. He's come back from foot surgery. He won't be ready for the regular season. This is the way that they planned it.
Mm-hmm.
DeMarcus Lawrence, who's had injuries in his career, a bunch of them, he's on active PUP, so they're taking it easy with him. He's now 29, very good football player. They're very weak at D tackle. And I know they drafted 2 players, Odigizua, who's a 3rd rounder, and this kid Bohanna in the 6th round. You know, was also there, who got nicked around a little bit in Saturday's practice. He seemed to maybe have turned his ankle. Remember Justin Hamilton was with the Eagles?
Yes, the defensive tackle. I do remember him. Yeah.
Yep. Who's been with a lot of teams, about 7 teams.
Right.
He might be starting. I mean, that's where they're at. And the kid Tristan Hill's been very disappointing, a former 2nd-round pick who's on PUP. Yeah, he Hamilton might be starting. We'll have to see, but they're very weak at D tackle. That's a position, and they're not very deep at DN. So I do believe that if the Eagles' offensive line is healthy, they'll be able to test the Cowboys secondary. But again, they're very deep. You know, Malik Hooker, they're not practicing very much. They're trying to get him acclimated.
Right.
Former Colt 1st-round pick. They're very deep at corner, and they're very young. They've got depth at corner, and then Tamonte KZ comes over from the Falcons, who Dan Quinn coached, who's their new D coordinator. Right. KZ was chirping the entire time. I love this guy. There was the Cowboy offense fought with the Ram defense on the other side of the field. There was actually guys went to the ground, but it was quickly broken up after 30 seconds. Whereas there was a lot of chirping with the Cowboy defense versus the Ram offense. That was fun to see. And so look, Dallas's problems are not on offense. They're absolutely loaded. And Dak Prescott has this odd, strange muscles in his shoulder. There doesn't seem to be any issue about him being ready for the regular season. But I don't know that he's going to do much in training camp. But I don't worry about their offense. It's their defense where I still think I have issues. And by the way, Micah Parsons is a playmaker. Your guy from Penn State, he could blow things up. He's their starting middle linebacker. Wow, he's explosive, and there's a lot he can do. They're playing Randy Gregory off the ball as an off-the-ball linebacker. I mean, excuse me, on the ball.
Okay, on the ball, right.
Yeah, he can't. Physically, he's just not able to play defensive end like normal. But he's in there like the Eagles are using their stand-up linebackers, and he's so explosive. He's a fun guy to watch. Well,
certainly the Cowboys will be following what they do, and we got to see them play the Steelers in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah,
that was pretty interesting. I wanted to focus the attention of our audience on the fact that we're going to do your training camp tour. We're going to talk a little bit more about the other NFL teams that you've seen this summer, and we're going to do that later this week, right? And then ITB TV.
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, they'll be fun, and I'll stick a lot of fantasy nuggets in there to get you guys going for your drafts. And we're in August, people are starting to draft. Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, we just did an Ask ITB recently where we covered a lot of different – people had great questions, and we covered a lot of different topics pertaining to the Eagles, contracts, training camp. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you should go to our either YouTube page or our podcast platform. Check out our last Ask ITB. And, of course, we'll be doing another one soon. We're going to try to do those more as we get toward the season and into the season, because we know it's our best chance to interact with our audience and our listeners. So thanks for everybody who participated in that first one. Also make sure you're checking out InsideTheBirds.com. We've had a lot of content on there. Myself, Andrew DeCecco, Adam, we're putting a lot of stuff there from training camp, pictures, things we've been able to get to go along with our stories, highs and lows from training camp. So make sure, if you're not, please subscribe to InsideTheBirds.com. Get the RSS feed so it comes right to your reader every morning. You can check out what we're writing on InsideTheBirds.com. So before we get into the Eagles, I mentioned to you the foot stitches that I got. Yeah. So I like to play, football on the beach with my kids. I have 2 girls. The cool thing about the foot stitches and not being very mobile is that all I could do was play quarterback. So my kids were wide receivers. Yeah. So I was automatic quarterback, and I would just sit there and teach them routes. We ran some posts, we ran some digs, we ran some shot crosses. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was pretty cool on the beach and everything like that.
And they're both
my 7-year-old. Yeah, they both play softball. Right?
Right. Okay.
I should get the older one into flag football. I think she'd be really good at it.
So flag is huge, man. Flag is
it's enormous. But it kind of reminded me of my younger athletic days and just out there kind of flinging the ball around. Of course, Adam, we had some personal triumphs as children, but we are long retired off the field quite a while ago. We still love winning, but we can't win on the field. But we do win with Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. Man, I know it sounds too good to be true because you hear things like a car going for $900. That's true. A brand new TV for less than $2. That's also true. Electronics, iPads, things of that for less than $150. All true. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for the things you want and get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the app, and when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. That's right. Just use that promo code ITB when you sign up, and you get a special offer for some bonus free bids. Adam, I think the one thing we should open up with when we talk about the Eagles is that something that maybe we thought was just an early thing in camp, turns out it's going to be a camp-long thing, and that's the shorter practices, the hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes. And the coaches, all of them, have made it fairly clear that this is like a powwow decision based on the head coach, the front office, and the medical staff. They keep talking about the medical staff. And you and I are used to practices being very long, 2 hours, 2:30. Doug may have had shorter ones than Andy because they were all in one spot and there was no two-a-days, but they were still long. This is by far the shortest amount of practice time. And I'm not here to tell you it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just here to say this is my observation. I guess we'll find out in the long run if this is a good thing for the team or not a good thing, but it's certainly about as different as I've ever seen or heard of training camp practices.
Actually, most teams, just so you know, are doing this. Very few are 2 hours. They're anywhere from an hour and 15. I had one practice was an hour and 20. The Chargers told me they almost are always an hour and 45 or less.
Are they all citing the medicals? Yeah, I was going to ask. Is that?
Yeah, the reason why they're doing it is for recovery, particularly if you have older players. They don't want them practicing a lot. It's the younger players that need more reps. And the thing that I'm noticing, this is more often than not, when a guy's role is established, they're not overworking the player. They'll give the number 2 guy or number 3 guy a lot of work. Zeke Elliott did not get a lot of work, not that he needed it. When I was watching the Cowboys, it's not a surprise. Miles Sanders has not had a lot of reps. They're giving Boston Scott and particularly Jordan Howard a lot of work. They're completely different running backs. They'll both have their packages of plays and their roles within the offense. And obviously, if Sanders gets hurt, Jordan Howard fits what they want on first and second down, and Scott would be a good changeup because he's had a very good camp. He looks explosive, but I'm just noticing that more often than not, Cleveland's doing that with certain players that don't need a lot of reps. Jadeveon Clowney has had a very good camp, is not practicing a whole lot, but he's healthy. That's the key. Odell Beckham Jr., he's coming off ACL reconstruction, has done through Sunday, had not done any team 11 on 11, I don't think, but that was to be expected. But just when you talk about training camp observations, camp to camp to camp, the veterans don't need a ton of reps, and they're being smart about it. In fact, I'm seeing offensive linemen. I never saw this before. I'm seeing a lot of offensive linemen rotate. Now, it's obvious most teams don't do this. It's rare. I've seen it before, but they don't usually do this in season. But they're getting the backups work because the starters don't need it.
Well, that is interesting that you're observing this league-wide. I think it's fair to say that over the last few years, the quality of play of NFL football in September has really lagged off. Now, is that relegated, or is that, can you correlate that to the changes in training camp and lack of hitting and lack of contact? And now maybe, I don't know if there's lack of reps. The way you put it the right way. I mean, they've had, it's like the guys who need reps, like Jalen Hurts, of course, and even a Jordan Howard, even though he's a veteran, he's a guy who needs to be in the best shape and show what he's got. They're getting a lot of reps. And of course, the veterans, the Brandon Grahams, the Ryan Kerrigans, they're getting that day off every 3 or 4 days. They're not, always in on every single play. Even Zach Ertz is not. So I guess the guys who are getting the reps, who need the reps, are getting them. The guys who don't need it as much, the veterans who've been in the league for a while, don't need him as much. But I do wonder what kind of impact this will continue to have on September football, because it's been ugly at times. I mean, there are plenty of games where you watch and you say that looks like an early training camp practice.
Right. Remember last year, the big story around the league placing what you're saying was how bad is the football going to be the first month of the season, because we had no off season, no preseason. Well, we got our answer. It wasn't very good.
Right.
Past September, it got better. This is what I remember Bill Polian telling us that would be a concern about what the football would look like, because he had talked about, I think he came on our ITB TV show last spring, and he harkened back to 2011 coming out of the lockout and what the football was like coming out of that. And it took a while to get things going, although they had an abbreviated training camp, whereas last year we didn't have any offseason, and we had no preseason. We had a short training camp. So, look, that's to be expected. And look, getting back to the Eagles, the defense is clearly ahead of the offense. That's the word through Thursday, through Sunday night's practice, although we'll get to what we heard and saw and all that, what we were told about that practice. But I like the approach. The other thing I would add is sports science plays a lot into it, particularly with the Eagles, because they really believe in it. And you talked about with the veterans getting a rest. I mean, the Eagles, I can't say because I'm not at 32 training camps, but man, the Eagles have a lot of veteran days off there. They're not overworking them, as you're talking about. They're making sure these guys don't get overworked, because, quite frankly, the older players, it's not about the reps. It's about making sure you get them to the regular season healthy.
Now, this week should be interesting, right? Coming up, because they've got their first preseason game. So they will not practice Wednesday or Friday because the preseason game's Thursday. So they're really only going to practice Monday and Tuesday. And it'll be interesting to see today, what they do, having practiced the night before at the link. I have to think that Monday is going to be a very light practice. So then Tuesday is probably going to be the one practice where you might see it longer than normal, or the pads come out. I'm just trying to rationalize it. And then it really has not been humid, like really hot and humid in Philly, and it's about to get that way. So we know that when you get deeper into camp and it gets hot and humid, that's when, like, it's been a nice camp. Everybody's lovey-dovey, no fights, no nothing. The only fighting is the coaches yelling at the players so far. But this will be an interesting week as the weather really, picks up. And then, of course, they've got the preseason game.
Yeah, so I want to get into the injuries in a second, because we didn't really. Someone said we didn't really cover them last time, so we'll get into that. But I think
because, by the way, that's because nothing had changed, right? I mean, from the one we did before to the last one, nothing had changed.
Right. We've got some changes here, which are important to know. But I think that plays into what you were talking about the practice regimen. The Eagles have had these worst, not the worst in the NFL, but they're probably top 5 worst of injury situations over the last 5 years. And they're doing everything. We've talked ad nauseum over the years about the changes to the medical staff and how they use sports science and all that. I remember talking to the Chargers about this for years. Like, they've tried everything. You do what you can. You can't control science. I mean, you can't control everything. Right. Guys are going to get hurt. They're going to get hurt. But it's how they recover, and that's why these guys are getting plenty of rest.
There you go. All right, so let's go through some of the injuries. I mean, the good news was that the right guard, Brandon Brooks, had his status change from I think he was limited Sunday night. I don't know how much he did as far as like with the teams. I don't think he did any, but he was at one point day to day, right? And then he came back and was limited, so that's good. And obviously Alex Singleton coming off of the COVID list and practicing. He had an interesting story about having to run down his hallway to keep in shape, and he was vaccinated and still, now he said his symptoms weren't that bad, but he was still away from practice. Yeah.
Actually, he confirmed what we had heard. He was fine. He just, unfortunately with this thing, you could be fully vaccinated and test positive. It's kind of what we've learned over the last couple of months. But the fact of the matter is, Brooks being back is huge. We'd said on our last 2 shows ago that we were hearing he could return last week, which it's now Monday, but we were told that there's a very good chance of it, and he did, albeit limited. That's fine. He's back. Singleton's back. Now, here's the thing about why it's important that Singleton gets in there. This is a new defense. Remember, they did not do any teamwork, 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 in the offseason. They only did 1-on-1s. So he's got to get in there. Now, we know that the Eagles are only going to be a 2 starting linebacker team. They're going to be a 4-2-5 team. So they got to make sure that Singleton's the heavy favorite, obviously, to start next to Eric Wilson.
Eric Wilson, yeah.
But I will tell you, and we haven't talked about this guy very much. We'll get into the breakdowns of everybody, of the new information we have. But the guy I want to mention, TJ Edwards has had a very good camp. We have not talked about him enough. He's moving a little bit. My understanding is he's been more athletic than this coaching staff thought based on tape study. And you would have known, I think, last summer.
Yep. Last summer. Okay.
Yeah. Talk about the athletic. You had something really interesting about him.
He had lost weight. He went into camp last summer as a legit competitor to be in the nickel, along with was it Nate Gary? I guess.
Yeah.
At that point, no, it had to be somebody else, right?
Gary was one of them.
Yeah. No, I guess it was Nate Gary. And then what happened was it wound up Duke Riley, who was very athletic.
Yes.
They just preferred his athleticism a little bit more in coverage. So it wound up, I think the starting nickel last year was Gary and Duke Riley. But TJ, whereas most people ruled him out from the start, thumper, downhill guy, had lost weight to try to put himself in position. Now, the note I made last podcast, Adam, is that when I was there and they were doing hurry up offense at the end of practice, the defense had Eric Wilson and TJ Edwards on the field as first team. And you would think if this guy is not, if he's only a base kind of thumper linebacker, he's not going to be out there and hurry up when the offense is passing all over the place. But I was pleasantly surprised because I like TJ Edwards and he's a good story to kind of see him out there with the first team defense. But I also said, you got to look at the current state of linebacker. Davion Taylor is out. At that point, Jacoby Stevens had not been out, but he's out now. And Alex Singleton just came back. So I don't want to make too much of it. It's good that he's been impressing, but I think he, as you mentioned there, with Singleton back, he's still going to have to prove that he's better for that spot than Singleton.
True. So that's a good thing that Edwards is doing well. But the other injuries, so the new one, Jannard Avery, unfortunately, I believe he got hurt in Saturday's practice. He grabbed his leg, and it turned out to be his groin. He's day-to-day, and we'll when we get to practice performance for the defense, this is actually an important injury because he's competing for that strong side linebacker job.
Right.
Malo got upgraded from week to week. We told you folks a couple weeks ago when he suffered the injury, it was minor.
Yep.
It's a strain, but they are so conservative with injuries in training camp. We appreciate them saying, guys, day to day to week. It's certainly something to help, to let people know what's going on. But they upgraded him, so he's day to day. We still don't know if he'll actually play in the preseason. It's really not important that he does. It's just that he gets the injury right now. The week to week guys.
Wait, hold that thought on week to week because I want to remind everybody to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code ITB to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any college football game. That's right, college football right around the corner. Sign up for that DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code ITB and win $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any college football game. All right, so now let's talk about the week-to-week injuries, Adam, because there are some new ones there.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, with that app, the sportsbook app you were talking about here from DraftKings, I actually on there I use it for blackjack. I play blackjack on it, so it's pretty good.
Oh, nice. You been winning?
I was, but I should have quit while I was ahead. That's the point. Someone's played blackjack for 30 years. It's got to learn. It's funny when I play cards at the table, I'll walk away. If the people at the table don't know what they're doing, I walk. I mean, it's just, I'm not going to give. I know what I'm doing. So
right.
But with this, because you could get on a roll with computer generated blackjack, you gotta turn it off.
I know. When you treated me to a steak last week, I knew that maybe you would come across some money like that. So I was
we went to Tony Luke's. Yeah, we had a good meal after practice. All right, so the week to week guys, Devontae Smith is MCL sprain. Here's a new one. John Hightower. This is not good, and we'll get into Quez Watkins. He's definitely trailing Watkins.
Right.
That he's week to week with this groin injury is not good. That's gonna. It's highly unlikely they'll keep more than 5 receivers, and Hightower's competing for the 5th job against Watkins, and not good. This is gonna set him back. So that's not good. So
we've talked a lot about his climb to begin with. So you're right.
Yes, right. Jacoby Stevens with the hamstring. That's new. We had heard he was coming on, started to get what they were asking him to do. Unfortunately, now. I still think he'll make it for special teams. I do believe he'll be on the football team. Davion Taylor had the quad earlier. That's gone. Now he's got a calf injury. When he's practiced, he's looked good. It's unfortunate. We're not going to do all the minor guys. We'll just talk about the guys who are, in real competition to make the team. Landon Dickerson's still an active NFI. There's no timetable for him to start practicing. Active PUP is Roddy McLeod from the ACL, and the Raven Clark with the torn Achilles. Now with Clark, the question is, will he be ready for the start of the regular season? Because he's got positional versatility. He could play right or left tackle, and he could play guard. And they want him to be one of their top backup linemen. So we'll see what happens.
Right. And McLeod too. I mean, you just have no idea at this point if he's going to be able to be ready for week one. You hope he is, because it's not a position the Eagles are especially deep at. But, they've got some developments at corner, and you never know what's going to happen there. Obviously, the Eagles said goodbye to Nate Meters, the defensive back, who was on IR pretty quickly after clearing waivers, and then Shaquille Taylor, who was the cornerback that they brought over from the Colts. Interesting. Two guys who they kind of specifically brought over, one from Minneapolis, the other from Indianapolis, because of the experience that they had in a different team's defense. Well, in the defense that Jonathan Gannon's going to start to implement here.
Correct. Yeah. So Meters will either stay on IR all season, or they could cut him with an injury settlement. So he's not going to contribute. As you said, Taylor was waived outright. This is because he just didn't do well enough. And look, they're not super deep at corner, but the good thing is a lot of guys, and we're going to get into that when we get to the defense, or have come on here. Just understand, when we're positive, when we're giving out strong performances, it's against their own players. It doesn't mean they're going to make the team if they're fringe players or just sort of in the middle players. It's just, this is the performance. It doesn't. We've said this many times since we started the show in 2018. Training camp is AAA baseball. Major leagues is regular season. You can only go by what you're told and what you see and what you know. Because some people are saying we're being too positive. We're not about that, folks. We don't subscribe to any theory, or we have to be positive or negative. This is what we're told about every single player. We've talked about well over 50 players since we started this thing. And
that's funny. Somebody criticized me for being too negative, so I don't know whether we're too positive, too negative.
Right. I just wanted to mention
all we're doing, by the way, is telling basically what our sources are telling us most of the time, and we're pretty well sourced. So it's not like it's most of the stuff isn't even our opinion.
And it's funny. It's just funny when I don't read anything. What happens is fans will send me a tweet. Oh, this guy reported this. I'm like, folks, I don't care. We go by our sources. We don't. It doesn't. None of that's all relevant to us. If you want to trust other people who don't know football, be my guest.
Sure.
But we go with what we've done for 4 years, and we'll stack it against anybody.
All right. With that, we will get into what we've recognized and heard and seen on the offense so far. It was a big deal. I know on I think it was Saturday that the offense did not have a good practice. I think it sent Eagles Twitter into a panic. But look, you're going to have days where the offense is. Look, it is fair. It's fair to say, we know this, not just from our own eyes, but from our ears and what we're told. The defense has been ahead of the offense so far. Some of that is to be expected because the defense normally early in camp is ahead of the offense. But we're not early in camp anymore. It's still early, but we're creeping toward the midway, and I'm sure the coaches would love to see a little bit of an improvement from the offensive side. But there were some obstacles early on to deal at wide receiver, especially, and there are still obstacles now with John Hightower out. And then of course the left and the right guard, Adam, being out. So let's start with quarterback. All right, let's start with quarterback with Jalen Hurts. As far as what we're hearing.
So what I would also add, and this goes back to practice reports from reporters. Mm-hmm. One of the mistakes I've made in the past is that I just think like what I saw is real.
Right.
But then when you check, it just depends on the team who I speak with. But if you talk to the right people who are willing to tell you the truth and not sugarcoat it, sometimes it's completely different than what you saw. And it's funny. Nick Sirianni talked about this in his up to before Sunday night's practice. Now, because what happens is you just talked about it. The reporters are saying that offense was terrible on Saturday. Okay, there's some truth to that. Wasn't good enough. But what Sirianni was like saying, he'll be at a practice before he watches the tape, and he'll think one thing, and sometimes it's the complete opposite of what he thought.
Right.
So you have to be careful of going all in when you're going to criticize the player or praise a player, as I've learned the hard way, unfortunately, when I've been wrong over the years. And you and I have talked about this. Not specifically with Hurts, but it could be another player. Wow, this guy had 3 great catches. What did he do in the other 50 plays that you'd missed?
Right.
At practice. And I have to be very careful of praising or criticizing because I don't have access to the tape that the coaches in front office is watching. So be careful with reporters and what they put out there. Some of it's not. Some of it's definitely not true. The opposite is true, and we want to make sure we check with the right people. And I do this with every team that I put stuff out on. Hey, did I see this right? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they go, no, dude, what are you watching? I'm like, all right, that's why I asked you.
Right, kind of thing, so. Right. So the quarterback situation, obviously, for anybody who wondered, I think a lot was too much was made about like the actual, lack of declaration of Jalen Hurts as the starting quarterback. What does that mean? They're not saying he's the starting quarterback. Well, I think he's taken every single quarterback one rep in training camp so far. So I think that just goes to show you what we've said all along. It's not a competition. Jalen Hurts is the number one quarterback for while he's here. Joe Flacco is the backup. And Nick Foles is fighting to make the team. An uphill battle, I would say, just based on numbers.
Yeah.
You never know, but just based on numbers. The sense I get, Adam, is that with Jalen, that they think he's doing okay. They'd like to see more. There's plenty of camp for him to show more. That's how it was kind of described to me. There are things that they want to see him do better. There are some things that he does well, and there are some things that he needs to clean up. But, if you were to put – I don't know. I didn't ask for any grade or anything, but overall he's doing okay is how it was kind of put to me.
Yeah, I think some areas he's improving. Some he needs to pick it up. Mm-hmm. The struggles have literally nothing to do with the offensive line when the veterans don't play. It's pulling the trigger, going through the right progression. Just typical of young quarterbacks. The more reps he gets, the better he's going to get. Now, is he going to be good enough to be a long-term starter for 5 to 7 years? We have no idea. This is a new offense for him. You could go back so many years on how many different offenses he's played in. Oklahoma, Alabama, and then when this coach left and they had to change this. There's the good thing is with him is that he's been through a lot. So from the transfer to just all the mental challenges from changing scheme to scheme to scheme to scheme. You want to know why Alex Smith struggled for so many years early in his career? So many different coordinators. So you just got to be patient. It's not always going to look pretty. He's hit some deep balls. He's missed some throws. One could infer that he's been uneven. I think that's being fair based on what you and I know about it.
Correct.
But there's a reason for it. It's a new work in progress here with the installs. And as we said on the last show, folks, you should definitely listen to it if you missed it. They are doing so much pre-snap and post-snap movement, the defenses. Sometimes as a quarterback, you don't know where the hell guys are lined up because they keep changing it. Those are tough mental gymnastics for not only Hurts, but for Flacco. He had some times where he's like, wait, where am I going here?
Exactly. Now as we've kind of talked about before, it's how you respond from the next day, because as you're mentioning, you're seeing a lot from the defense, but they're working through that. The coaches are examining that, and then in the classroom, they're teaching all the quarterbacks, next time this happens, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. So while they are seeing new things, we are now 8, we'll be 8, 9, 10. Pretty soon they're going to be looking for more, and hopefully the quarterbacks will be able to give the coaches what they're looking for. But that's the best we can say now. I think that's the most accurate way to put it, is that there are some things are doing well, there are some things are not doing well, and it's been okay so far. Nothing to like go screaming to the mountains about, nothing to be like down in the dumps about. It's just the natural process of learning this position.
Flacco's been he's been steady. Like he's been decent. Mullins is so limited with his arm. Right. He had the procedure after the season, and he doesn't drive the football. He's about accuracy and timing. That's why he's here. But I just can't see any way he's going to make the team. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what the preseason looks like. But the positive is the running game, man. They've got so much versatility with Jordan Howard's power behind Sanders when they want to go with a power game. Scott looks more explosive. Gainwell, we know what kind of role he's going to be. And then Adrian Killens, by the way, has moved to receiver.
Yeah.
I'm guessing because they're so down with injuries. Well, Devontae Smith's out. Michael Walker's been out for a while. He's day-to-day now. John Hightower's going to be out for a while. They just don't have – technically, they had 9 receivers in camp. They're down 3 of them. You can't run an NFL training camp practice with like less than 9. You just can't. Plus, they got the preseason games.
Well, they also moved the tight end, Hakeem
Butler
to wide receiver also. Yeah. And he's basically a wide receiver anybody because he doesn't really block. He's a flex tight end which is basically a wide receiver. So, yeah, that gives – I don't know if that's permanent or because they just think he's better there, or if it's because, as you said, they need some bodies, so they're moving guys there.
Yeah. So look, so at running back, They're going to be good. This is going to be fun to see how the coaches use these guys. Scott's really revived his career. Here's what we learned last year. We said this a lot, and it's true because we saw it with our own eyes, and we were told this. Scott simply last year did not handle that. He was very average, filling in for Sanders when Sanders was not available, and just from a tape study standpoint, it just didn't happen for him when he got the chance to play. Mm-hmm. That is a big reason we're told why Jordan Howard's back. Plus, if Sanders can't play and they want to go with heavy run, it's going to be Jordan Howard. Scott cannot handle a lot of volume in terms of carries. Jordan Howard can. Mm-hmm. Jason Huntley he's a guy he's definitely fast, explosive, but there are a lot of guys like that in the National Football League. You got to hit it up in there. That's what Gainwell's for. And Killens actually could do that. Huntley's, it's going to take a lot for him. He's opened some eyes occasionally, but it would take a lot for him to make the team.
Right.
Kerryon Johnson's starting to look better. We know he's a supreme pass protector. It's going to be hard for him to push anyone off the roster. The four others, we know Sanders, Howard, and Scott at Gainwell to me are locks. I don't see how Kerryon Johnson's going to push one of those guys out, but he's got 3 preseason games for the rest of training camp to do so. It's going to be hard, but he's starting to look better.
I think you had the right perspective on this, though. This is an area where they've got good talent. They're deep, so the guys are playing well. I mean, you feel confident about the running back spot so far into camp, and knock on wood, everybody stays healthy, and every decision they make is just about talent and not because somebody got hurt, and that's good. It's a good thing for this team.
Well, yeah, I just want to add, Jordan Howard, I'm like flummoxed. But I get that wrong. I thought it was a stupid decision to bring him back. I'm like, why do you got to bring this guy back? I thought he was toast. Look, I'm going by last season, right?
Right.
I understand Chan Gailey didn't want him. Okay, that's fine. But he didn't want him after 1 week. I heard he literally made a decision after 1 week of training camp. I can't use this guy, which is absurd. How does this happen between the front office and the coaching staff?
I don't know.
I mean, it should not be allowed. It tells you how bad their communication was.
Well, yeah, and then you read the tea leaves, right? The Eagles bring him back, and then they immediately claim Kerryon Johnson off waivers. So you're thinking that even they weren't really satisfied with having him.
Plus, they've got Holofield as a bigger back. I mean, I just didn't understand it. Now, what we had heard, we put on our show a couple months ago, is that he had a really good OTAs. For what it's worth, again, I know you can't hit, and there's no 11-on-11, 7-on-7, but he looked like he was in better shape, and apparently he's been terrific. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely in our top 10 of most impressive players. He's had a revival here. It's not like he's 30 years old, folks. It's not like the boy's washed up. He only turns 27. Let's not forget, in November.
Wow, that's amazing. Feels like he has been around for a while.
Yeah, I would have said 28. Yeah.
All right, let's talk wide receivers. You know, when we did our last pod, Adam, we talked about the situation with Jalen Reagor and how the coaches were, were being vocal with him on the field. And then he went out and made one of the greatest one-handed touchdown catches in a drill. That was almost Odell Beckham Giants-like, with the one hand and over, I think, Darius Slayer-Nelson. I forget who it was, but it was a thing of beauty. But the big thing that sticks out is that you're seeing the whole the offensive coaching staff, Sirianni, Patullo, you're really seeing them coach him hard on the field. But as we understand it and we know it, they're also coaching him hard behind closed doors when practice is over, getting him running, getting his conditioning up. They are very, very firm with him. And we know that they were disappointed that he showed up and did not pass the conditioning test. And I just want to set something straight because a couple of folks got at us and made it seem like we were being unsympathetic in the way we spoke about him showing up and not passing the conditioning test, knowing that a friend of his had been murdered. What we were simply saying was he was in great shape at one point, as we had heard. And then when he showed up, everybody was surprised that he was not in good shape and couldn't pass the conditioning test. And even though they understand what he went through, and although in front of cameras they have said, it's a traumatic experience and we feel for him, and they do, just like anybody, we do too, they also know he's a professional whose job it is to be at training camp in shape. And so they're coaching him and they're getting on him, as we both understand. We've heard the same thing. They're really getting on him to get him back in shape. It's not about not being sympathetic. It's about the fact that the team needs to go out there, have everybody in shape, and trying to prepare for a season to win games. There's nothing wrong with that. And you know what? Jalen knows that. And so he's taken to the coaching well, and you're starting to see him come on a little bit.
Yeah, he is getting what we call hard coaching. I mean, they're on him. So I understand why people are like, how could how you guys are hard on him after what he lost his friend. Folks, it's not us, it's them. I'm sure everyone listening or watching on YouTube knows what happened. Was it Thursday's practice where Sirianni went after him?
Yes.
We were there. No, it was Wednesday, right?
No, it was Wednesday. It was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday.
I mean, I had heard they're coaching hard, these players hard. It's not just Reagor. But, I mean, I've seen some stuff in my day. You have too.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty hard. I mean, it was –
yeah.
It was he laid into him, and they want – because they know how gifted the kid is. And they're not holding anything back. So you're absolutely right. Look, it's –
yeah.
We
know they've made him run after practice. I mean, we know they've made him take extra reps. I mean, like they have to get him in shape.
They made him run?
Yeah, they've been making him run after practice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look,
so they're not holding back.
You got to be in shape. If you're not in shape, you're going to get hurt out there.
Yeah.
So they've got to get him in shape, and they know they also know they have to ride him. He's a guy that they have come to see a year and a half in or a couple months in that they got to get into him a little bit and tell him to pick up the pace. And this coaching staff has no problem doing that with anybody on the field right now, as you can see.
Yeah. So look, this is called coaching, folks. They're doing absolutely the right thing. The story now, it's really Quez Watkins. This is interesting. I did this because being out west over the weekend and really the last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or actually Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I did happen to ask about Quez Watkins. I just asked some friends with other teams, like, what do you know? And it got a very consistent, either he was off the team's boards or there was a reason. The reason why he went in the 6 is totally for immaturity. He just he had football character, grade was bad. And did he not pass a conditioning test as well? What was that one?
He had an incomplete conditioning test the first day. And then the next 2 days, he was out with what they called a non-COVID illness.
Okay.
So he was a little late to the practice party, but then he obviously picked up well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, not that Reagor can't do it, but he might, just from a explosiveness standpoint, what they wanted to get out of Deshaun Jackson and couldn't because he couldn't stay on the field. Watkins, from what we've heard, is lights going on from a maturity level. He may or may not have been told, this is it. You better get it done. You better do your job or you're out of here. I can't say that's happened, but something's motivated him. The light is going on. And the funny thing is he had as high as 3rd round grade from a performance standpoint from some teams that I talked to this past week. So it tells you how the football character was down below. Maybe the light's going on. He has been awesome. And the catch that he had Sunday night, I think he got hit hard maybe 2 plays before or something. He may have missed a couple plays, came back and caught a 50-yard bomb. So
yeah,
this guy could fly, and he's so gifted. If he could just continue to mature, and what we've heard to close this out is he's starting to understand what it's like to be a professional.
The light is coming on.
Yep, exactly. When you do that, man, you could really help yourself in the football team.
Awesome. So that would be a welcome addition. They need some good news at wide receiver. And I will say, Jalen Reagor has he's made some really nice catches in the drills over the last few days. So he's picking up his play too. And this is exactly what the Eagles need, especially with Devontae Smith out. I know Fogel made a nice catch too at the link deal at the night practice. So they need some consistency there. As far as tight end, I think it's more of the same as we've said. Jack Stoll is out there doing his thing. And of course, Tyree Jackson, who you kind of gave a nugget on last podcast, is that he's not the worst blocker in the world. And that's a good foundation to have. He continues to make good catches and make his presence known.
Tell you what, if the Eagles are able to get what they want for Ertz and find a team that will take his salary, if this continues with Tyree Jackson, we've always said since we started the show, players cut themselves and they make the team by their performance. He's going to make it real tough on these coaches. If it's Goddard, we know Goddard, Rodgers, and Stoll are the 3. If they keep 4, it's because Jackson they're so concerned with him being claimed off waivers. If again, we've only had 2 weeks of practice, right? We haven't had a preseason game yet. But if this continues and he continues to progress, he needs to bulk up a little bit, super tall. But if he keeps doing this, man, this is yet another potential story where it comes out of nowhere, where his work ethic, I think, based on what I've told, football character is super duper high. That's why he's been able to do what he's done so far. Now, again, he hasn't been where he can get hit. in a game, and that's where the true test is. I cannot wait to watch the Pittsburgh game this week.
Totally agree. That's going to be a fascinating telltale for him and a lot of other of the young players. Anything else on tight ends, or you want to get into offensive line?
No, that's it. OL, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty interesting, and something that we talked about a year ago, maybe even more than that, is that, Jack Driscoll is a guy that Jeff Stoutland loves. The team loves him. 4th round pick from 2 years ago. We saw him play right tackle last year. Started at right tackle, but I remember telling you that I was hearing that they like his athleticism, that they felt that in a pinch he could even play center someday. It's not where they ever wanted him, but they thought he had the athleticism and agility to be able to play the interior offensive line. But as you had mentioned too, he needed to bulk up and have the strength to match that position. Well, it looks like now that Matt Pryor has not been taking the first team right guard reps, and Jack Stoll has, and also Opeta has been taking first team left guard reps instead of it had been.
You mean Driscoll? Yeah, you mean Driscoll?
Yeah, Driscoll is taking him instead of Matt Pryor, and Opeta is taking him at left guard instead of Herbig, who I think has been running at second team center, and that's why. But
yeah,
I'm more interested in the Driscoll at right guard switch, because it's like two birds with one stone here. First, it takes Matt Pryor out of that spot, although he had probably been not so bad. I think as you had said before, he wasn't doing terribly there. But Jack Driscoll is going to get cross-trained, and I like this kid. I think he's been a good pick for them so far, and it's good to see that now they're looking at him on the inside as well.
One of the best things that this personnel staff has done for several years, easily over a decade, is they draft and develop, and also the coaches do it, but they draft and sign offensive linemen that they get it done. They've had a very good history of offensive line. Man, I mean, Andy Reid, and when Andy Reid had personnel control, and I mean, you could go back with Roseman and Tom Hecker before that. They just have done a great job with our friend Jamal Jackson. You just go through the whole list of undrafted free agents who've made it.
Yeah,
lower round guys who've made it. Kelsey in the 6th round. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Now, obviously, there are guys who we could go over the Stacey Andrews. You and I were talking about that off the air. Look, you don't get them all right. Nobody does.
Of course.
And we'll see about Dillard if he can pick things up. Mm-hmm. And then they've got the Mulatto story. It's just, man, Joe Banner told us this, when you are strong in the offensive defensive lines, you're ready in the ball game to compete. And that's why it's rare, other than last year, that the Eagles don't compete at a decent enough level. Because if you're good on both lines, at least you're giving yourself a chance.
There you go. All right, what do you got on Siposs? Anything?
Siposs. Yeah, he's actually a really good camp from directional punting, hang time, confidence, taking the coaching, whatever whatever the thing is you want to look at with this guy. Mm-hmm. Now we're starting to see why they did not sign a punter to compete against him. I give the Eagles credit to this point, but again, he's got to do it in games for the rest of training camp. So I don't know how he got here, other than we knew he was with the Lions practice squad. I don't know who scouted him, but that's a really good job so far of understanding what the guy brings to the table.
Awesome. All right, we'll get into the defense. First, we'll remind our friends to check out PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of the Philadelphia sports, including the first place National League East Philadelphia Phillies. How about that? Unbelievable run that they're on. So make sure you're checking them out at PHL Sports Nation, and you can see them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. For the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. Check them out. And we'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. Well, I don't know how many more podcasts that we can go and start singing the praises of Josh Sweat and the defensive line, Derek Barnett, Javon Hargrave. I almost have nothing new to report other than the fact that they were balling then and they're balling now.
Yeah, I just the reason why I put him on a rundown is because here's the story with Hargrave. Because we just said he'd been doing well, but we didn't say why. Mm-hmm. He gets so low, and he's such a leverage player.
Great pad leverage player. Yep.
Yeah, he is just amazing, and he brings it all day. I mean, they gave him an enormous contract. He wasn't healthy, as you noted, last year at this time. I missed just about all of training camp. Mm-hmm. He looks just like the guy they thought they were going to get. And this guy's a pretty good pass rusher in college at, I think, South Carolina State. So you tag him with Cox. And this D-line with Barnett, Graham, and Josh Sweat, our guy, 94, who's just been incredible. who is a breakout player candidate in the biggest way. And the other thing is they continue to do this every practice. They're standing these DNs up. I'm not so sure how comfortable Sweat is standing up because he's a long strider. I did watch that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it looks awkward. It just doesn't look like something he's done a lot of.
No, I think he's more comfortable if like being kicked inside and rushing from the interior with that long wingspan. They've done that with him over the last few years.
Yes.
But yeah, then standing up.
But they're doing it with these ends, man, more than I anticipated. And this is, I'll tell you what, and we won't pick our record for the team until late this month or the first week of September. But if they wind up being better than 500, not only will because Hurts played well, it's because their lines were dominant. And everyone talks about, could this be a top 5 offensive line? Yes. Could this be a top 5 defensive line? We haven't talked about that. Hell yes. Hell yes.
Certainly could. It certainly could. The only thing we've said is depth at defensive tackle is a question mark going into camp. I've seen Milton Williams kind of played in different positions. We know that. And obviously, as you mentioned, they're doing so much with the defense. I want to kind of – Milton Williams is one of those guys that I'm really looking forward to seeing how he plays in the first preseason game. And not just how he plays, but where he plays and the usage. By the way, they're starting to do some of that stunting and stuff up front now.
Okay.
Which, I said was going to be a big part of this defense. You're starting to see that in practice. So I think it's going to be pretty fast. And now I don't expect him to throw out the kitchen sink in the first preseason game. But, it's your base if part of your base principles is to have some pre-snap movement or do some stunting, it's not unrealistic to think you might see some line games and stuff out there.
Yeah, Williams has been sort of up and down. The issue with the short arms is definitely a factor.
Right.
There's just some way because the D line could get into him because his arms are shorter. That's a scouting situation, which I've learned over the years. It's got a ton of validity. To overcome that, like Aaron Donald, who I saw for 2 days, you got to now I know why he's been able to overcome the short arms. His chop, his hands. That's unbelievable. I mean, he doesn't stop. And they were doing one-on-ones, and it was unfair. It's ridiculous. He doesn't. His motor. Apparently, they say he never stops. He can't. That's just the way that he is. Yeah, the fastest hands I've ever seen for a D lineman. It's just absurd. Just absurd.
That is unbelievable. He's a great player, and yes, he's one of those guys who can compensate for those short arms with having just plus everything else.
Yeah,
which actually makes you appreciate him even more so. Do you think when we look at this pass rush from a depth standpoint, Barnett's having a good camp, which is great, and Sweat is obviously having a great camp, and BG is out there. We expect maybe Kerrigan will be back soon. I'm sure that they're just being cautious with him.
Just limited. He's not doing a lot. Yeah, because of the thumb. Yeah.
Right. Do you think there's room do you think this could be the year that Joe Osman makes the team?
Well, let me just tell you something about Joe Osman. Yeah, I mean, he's been on the practice squad. He had the ACL injury. He's all the way back physically. He blows plays up. His energy is infectious. Now, he's not playing DN. He's playing strong side linebacker. Now, he can, obviously. Right. We mentioned this in the spring. The beauty of Avery, if Avery or Osman make it, if you need a fifth end, if somebody gets hurt, and obviously you have Milton Williams now. So they really only need to keep 4 DNs. They don't need to keep 5 because you've got Osman and Avery who could do it. And that you've got that potential depth if you need it. But looking at their defensive line right now and what they've got, particularly defensive end, they've got some versatility, as we know. Before we move to the linebacker here, you're right. The lack of depth at D tackle is going to be a problem. Guys who've done it before. I mean, again, depth has nothing to do with having 15 guys at a position. It's what coaches will tell you privately. Right. Give me 4. Do I have 4 guys who can do it? I don't. Right. You give me 15 guys, we don't have good enough depth. Our depth stinks.
There you go.
So, I'm not saying these guys stink. Right. I'm just saying in general, this is the way coaches think. Give me guys I could use that I feel confident in using. As we said in the last show, we don't know who the 3, 4, and 5s are at D tackle. We don't know, and that's going to be probably a mystery until we get to the end of August.
Yeah, and as we move into linebacker, it really sucks for Davion Taylor that he's been out. I know he had a boot around his leg. I mean, this is a guy who needed every single rep that he can get, and who knows when he'll be back. And that's put other guys in positions. Now, Jacoby Stevens was one of those guys capitalizing at one point, the rookie 6th-round pick from LSU. He had a nice interception in practice. We were talking about him getting a few days of runs with the ones, well, among others, running with the ones. And then he went and is now week to week with the hamstring. So it kind of puts this linebacker position. Thank God Alex Singleton came back. But still, Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, and then what? Sean Bradley's getting the
Edwards.
He's out there. And, of course, TJ Edwards, right?
Yeah.
You would just like to see everybody healthy here and competing and battling. I would have liked to have seen Stevens be able to play in the preseason game too. And maybe he magically gets back before that. I don't know. I don't suspect he will. But it would have been nice to have him and Taylor be able to play preseason games and get preseason reps in.
Yeah, Stevens, if he gets healthy, would be a four-core special teamer, no doubt. I think what happened was in the spring he was swimming because he was learning a new position. That's the coach's term, like they're swimming upstream trying to figure things out. Lights started to go on. I mean that I don't know who likes. I don't. We find out sometimes weeks or months later about who pushed for a particular player. I have no idea where they saw him playing linebacker, but this has been a trend. We see these college safeties move to linebacker. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But they clearly, through their testing, felt he can do it. We'll see. So the question for the Eagles is, do they keep 5 or 6 linebackers? I would have thought no way in hell would they keep 6 linebackers. But if you look at it, yes, they're going to be a 4-2-5 team. But when they go with 3, you've got potential, as you were talking about, of Edwards in there or Stevens, assuming he makes it. Sean Bradley, who's a supreme special teams player, can play sub packages. And of course, Davion Taylor. So the depth might actually be better than last year. The talent level, is it great? No. Is it below average? Yes. But Singleton, our friend Greg Cosell, loved his tape last year. I think based on what Greg said, I think it's kind of like the public thinks one thing is Singleton, and the tape shows another. He's actually pretty talented. Yeah. And maybe this new staff finds other ways to use him. We'll see.
Well, that's just what you hope, is that I think what we saw last year was real. You just hope that in a new defense that he fits what Gannon's looking for, or JG takes him and says, look, I know he's got really good talent. He may not do what I had wanted to do, but I will adjust and put him in the best position to succeed within my scheme.
Right.
All right. Is there anybody in the secondary, Adam, that you're looking for, or maybe on the whole defense, that you're looking forward to seeing against Pittsburgh more than Zach McPherson?
Well, just from McPherson, because it's so funny. A friend of mine who's a season ticket holder goes, dude, he's not even playing with the starters. I said, I understand, but the guy,
that's the point.
Everything they ask him to do, he's done. And if you just rank the top 10 players, he's in your performances in training camp, he's top 5. He's been that good. Now, I think either you or I knew this, or I don't know if we said it. I know we said it to each other. We're told that in the pre-draft testing, his testing for football intelligence is so high. That probably has a reason why that he's done so well and he's not overwhelmed. But again, it is fair to say, okay, it's with the 2s. Now it's possible. It's possible he got first team reps. I can't remember if he did or not.
On the Veterans Day, he gets first team reps.
Okay.
Yeah. It was him and Steven Nelson. Yeah.
Oh, for Nelson, right. And then Craig James has been really good. Like we said last summer, the reason why he was going to make the team, people thought we were out of our minds. We don't know what we're talking about. Craig James, who's this guy? I didn't know much about him either. We were told he had a great camp, and he made the team. Unfortunately, he missed some time, but he's doing it again. He has positional versatility inside or outside, special teams. So he'll definitely make the team. And then I know we had a couple questions about this guy. He was on my list, 37 of guys who've come on a little bit, but unfortunately, no, he's hurt. Graylin Arnold, he's a, I don't want to call him positionless player. What that means, he could play at a lot of positions, nickel, corner, safety. He's still a long shot because there's going to be a numbers issue, but unfortunately, he got hurt, and now he's day-to-day with a hamstring, but he's started to come on a little bit, so I want to make sure we mention that. People love, and we all do, we love the lower-end guys that people don't know about, and we like to give them a little bit of love. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's from what we hear. I think we've now probably covered 60 players in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, is there anybody you haven't covered? That's the question. Is there anybody that we have not covered?
I still don't have anything on Tui Pelotu. Do you know anything?
No. I do know Levert Hill, my favorite, fringe cornerback, had a nice interception in practice the other day. So it's always nice when you can get a Levert Hill reference in there. So good on Levert. And no, I'm still waiting for Tui Pelotu to kind of make his impact known, make his presence known. Maybe that'll come Thursday night in the preseason game. We know we'll get a lot of reps. Look forward to that. We'll drop another podcast before the preseason game. We'll preview it, find out who's going to play, how much, get all the intel that we can, and looking forward to getting some real football back from an Eagles standpoint. It was fun to watch the Hall of Fame game, but, it's also like the Steelers and the Cowboys. So I know a lot of Eagles fans were like, do I have to watch my hated rival versus my intrastate rival? Like, couldn't you just get somebody else in there? But by the way, congrats to Harold Carmichael. Want to give him a big shout out.
So happy.
One of the greatest, not just Eagles or football players, but human beings that you will ever meet. Fantastic dude. Love him.
One of the kindest people I've met in my life. Got to know Harold working for our friend Dave Spadaro in 11, 12, and 13, being in the Eagles building a lot, just getting to know him. Just saw him a month ago at Ron Jaworski's golf event. Had a nice talk with him. Oh, we talked about we actually should get him on ITB TV. We need to do that.
Definitely. But, I can't believe we haven't. And now that I think I can't believe we haven't done it already.
We're morons. I am especially. But anyway, you're right. I don't know how we didn't, but we were talking about practices with Dick Vermeil. It was such a great effect. I would love him to talk about this. The differences from today's practices, as you were talking about at the start of the show, about how short they are, when they were 3, 4, and 3 and 4 hours, and getting a water break, and doing 2 days, and wearing your pads up for both practices. Like, you would be put in jail if you did that.
It's crazy. Yeah. But he's a great dude, and it was really cool to see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's in like 3 Hall of Fames, by the way. It's unbelievable. He's that's how successful he's been in.
He's a great dude.
So shout out to Harold Carmichael. Real quick before we leave, I wanted to also give a shout out to Pastor Rob Whitmire, Adam. You might know he's working right now with the Ertz Family Foundation. They're doing some pretty impressive things in Philadelphia, trying to help build up neighborhoods and do great things for kids. They've aligned with a group called Timoteo Sports, which is kind of like almost like a Big Brother type organization, but with sports. They're helping kids stay involved in athletics and stay off the streets. So just wanted to acknowledge them. We were at they had an event 2 weeks ago, and Pastor Rob came up to me, and I hadn't met him yet, and he said, I love your guys' show. So I had no idea he was a listener. So
wow,
I really appreciate. Awesome. Nice. Yeah, and of course you can reach out to him or Timoteo if you're involved, you want to be involved, you want to help kids in Philadelphia, get mentorship, anything through sports. And of course the Ertz Foundation is also, Pastor Rob works for he's the pastor of the Grace and Peace Community Fellowship. So if you Google that and his name, you'll find out what you can do. And we'll give more information on how to help too as we go forward.
Zach and Julie Ertz and Lisa, Zach's mom, are just incredible people. The stuff they do with the community through everything Zach has been through the last 2 years of not getting the contract extension and all that, and he's still here. And it hasn't been pretty from that standpoint, but what he has not stopped doing great work off the field, and it's just a credit to him. He's just a great dude, and I wish he and Julie well. They're just awesome people. I'm glad that they're doing this with the local community.
Yeah, they've got really big plans on how to help Philadelphians and really do some special things. So big shout out to them for that. That will do it for this episode of Inside the Bird, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer. His name is Hunter Brody. You know that. You can check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads, and his website is broadsmedia.com. You can find him on Twitter at Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.